Three, two, one.
Hello, my name is Derek Johnson, and I would like to invite you to We're All We Got. It's going to be a podcast where we're going to just talk about things that are near and dear to the inner city community, conversations that seem to get left out or misconstrued. We're going to start this conversation with the hopes of it being educational to others to provide direction and hopes to bringing us together as a community. I've grew up in the city, and I've watched for a long time, and I see us in the same position, while at the same time I'm seeing us as individuals having an impact, gaining stature, um, starting to touch the first, a lot of the first in the last 10 years in the city of Albany. But if you look at us collectively as a group, we're more divided, and we're fast to not support each other and quick to point out our flaws of each other. So the hopes of this podcast is to have conversations that we have one on one and in our private rooms and bring it more public to once again to provide direction and education. And I'm honored to have a lifelong friend with me, one of the brightest minds that I have known in the city of Albany, Aaron Dare, to be a part of this conversation and bring his expertise. A lot of the stuff that you'll hear me talk about is foundational stuff. But when Aaron gets the mic, there's no telling where the conversation can go and what he could bring to the conversation. So I'm excited that he had the time to join us today, and we're looking forward to seeing where this can go. What's going on, Aaron?
Good to be here with you, D. I appreciate it. Derek, Councilman Johnson, Important Guardian. We go back a long way from the very beginning. We play ball together. We've known our families have known each other for a long time. So it's an honor to be here with you and chop it up about, the issues that are most relevant to the community. And I like how you framed it in terms of how slow we are to give credence to people who are out there fighting on those front lines, but how quick we are to criticize them. Sometimes the togetherness is what we need, and that's been sorely missing. We've had a lot of firsts in this city, but those firsts haven't always moved forward in the way that we've liked. We've dealt with a lot of disappointment associated with those firsts. So it's nice to talk about what we can do to get things back on track for the community.
And we just had an interesting weekend. We had the NCAA women's basketball tournament here, and it was exciting games, and a lot of people came through the town. But when you woke up on Tuesday morning, it was a lot of conversation, and it was really about a point that the commentator made about Albany, and I when I first heard it, I've had that thought many times. I've shared that thought. And when I woke up on Tuesday, and just to see the many conversations that resulted as a result of it, I have to just think about a conversation I had with my brother, and my brother just felt, he said it wasn't her position to say that, and I felt that because as a native, you should feel protective of your space.
Yeah.
But I also feel that we defend, we dilute when the attention and the focus is it hits home, and I think that when I think about myself, when I go and visit an area that I don't know, you always want to go to those safe spots where when you check into your hotel, they'll tell you this is where you go if you want to get something to eat.
Yeah.
This is where you go. I don't
And this is
know.
where you want to avoid.
Yes, yes, and I honestly don't feel that there's many directions to answer those questions for people who don't know. So when you think about a person making a statement like that, you have to go from how would you feel if you're in an area that you don't know anything about, and you just want to go out and get a bite to eat or listen to some music or just be in the company of people who look like you. So I don't think that there is many places for, you know, a person that's my age that came into Albany and didn't know where to go. I don't think that they would have an easy time navigating through that. So I could see why one would feel like it's nothing to do in the city of Albany. And so just wanted to have a conversation about that because it's an opportunity for us to do something about that. You know? And if you look at, we have University of Albany here, we have many colleges, and you have to look at, are these people staying in our neighborhood, our community? Are they becoming a part of the city, and why or why not? And you know, a lot of times, the social part of the city is just as important as other parts. And I think that in the last 10 years or so, we have gotten away from that. And you know, I think, like, I woke up one day this week and I was thinking, I said, I wonder if we can get data from when Sneaky's was in Albany, and just to see the effect that Sneaky's had on the city on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Did crime go down during those hours? And so that's something that you could take a look at and quantify into saying, hey, it's a benefit of having something for people from 18 to 30 years old. You know, this is how we can work that in. And the last point that I want to make about that is when I go out in other cities, the police force seems to be more a part of the nightlife than what you see in Albany. It seems like it's for sale. Like if you don't pay $80 an hour for 5 officers to come and just stand while they expect your security to do all the work, I just think that we have to figure out how to work that into the equation. So, you know,
Makes sense.
these things would make people feel safe. It would make it easier for businesses to operate, you know, at night, and it would, you know, be a visual to, you know, individuals that, you know, need to see law enforcement so that they do the right thing. So, you know, I think that, you know, this conversation will, you know, support the young person that wants to be a club owner in the city of Albany and would like to provide that type of environment to the people.
Well, you know, one of the things I think we can all agree on is Albany's always had a hard time having honest conversation about ills in the city. And before we even talk about what Rebecca Lobo had to say and stuff like that, I think it's important that we note that this event is probably the largest event, national national event to occur in Albany for a long time. I'm gonna have to go back to Melo's run with Syracuse to the championship to find some sort of equivalent. And here we have this arena that's hosting basically a national audience that's in the middle of a primarily black community. And when I look, I see us being locked out of a lot of that because we couldn't afford ticket prices and those kind of things. So when you walk through the arena and so forth, you might have saw us out front, but you certainly didn't see us in any large numbers represented inside. You know, so that's problematic in itself, in that we become a colony within a nation, and that was on display this weekend as I watched all the Iowa shirts and everybody come through, and yet we have one of the most heralded black coaches in basketball today, and Dawn Staley leading a team that was here. We have one of the most prominent NBA players, future WNBA players, and Angel Reese leading defending champions. And we didn't have a chance to, you know, be in the conversation about bringing our children there. So when we talk about being left out, we got to talk about that as well, because no matter what name you put on it, that arena exists in a largely minority community, and we need to be a part of that. Secondly, is when you look up and down Pearl Street, I can only name 3 minority-owned businesses that are there. There's a Staple, which is Fresh and Fly. You know, Angelo's been there forever, carving a marketplace, creating a path for all of us. There's Mr. Good Vibes, and then there's Downtown Nutrition. Outside, and I'm sorry, there's a fourth. There's Euro Tailor. So you got four largely minority businesses on that major corridor. And that's an improvement in our lifetime because we didn't even have that growing up as kids. We didn't see those kind of businesses on that end of Pearl. You know what I mean? But that becomes important to be able to look at because once you cross State Street, you're in the business district. And now at least we have a presence. But when you talk about, you know, being able to do things and being able to bring a culture and a life to the city of Albany, the downtown district is where it happens because that's where you've got all of the hotels. That's where you traditionally have had the restaurants and so forth. And I think that we both can be honest and say we've had our differences with Mayor Jennings, and largely in that there was a general feeling that he was not willing to, at least my differences were, difficulty in getting a major investment in minority communities, whether it be West Hill, Arbor Hill, South End, North Albany, however you wanted to look at it. The focus was on downtown. And at least you saw the imprint or his impact on downtown. He would shut down Pearl to bring people downtown to make sure that the businesses did well. He would make sure that the college students, like you mentioned, University of at Albany, they had Pearl Lounge, Jillian's, Big House, all of those things. And then there were restaurants lined up along Pearl with tables outside so that at least if you came to the city or you had family coming to the city, you had a restaurant and a place to be able to enjoy a nightlife, a beer, and have a good meal, whatever it was. So, you know, whatever we want to say about him, the truth is he did bring attention to the downtown district. And that downtown district is something that can benefit us because if jobs are there, people live close by, they can walk to jobs, they can be able to bus to jobs, and that's how we begin to create a vibrant community again. And you look at areas like Syracuse, where I've forgotten the name of the place, but they have a location where they have hotels and then they have restaurants all in an open area. Something similar needs to be done where the old bus station was, where we had originally looked at a convention center, being able to put together some housing, some bed and breakfasts, some Airbnbs, housing and restaurants in that area to create a vibrant community again, because we did have a vibrant Black community that was lost at the time that they built the Empire Plaza. I think on Facebook the other day, Pastor David Tranum did a good job of breaking down what was there and what we lost. And we need to look at how we begin to recapture that, because within that is opportunities to create available affordable housing. It's opportunities to be able to create small businesses. Somebody might not be able to afford a full brick and mortar location, but they can be able to afford a kiosk in that kind of a shopping center where they can start up their restaurant and do those kind of things. So we need to start looking outside the box and looking at how we create the kind of Albany that we'd like to see, that we've been promised for years. Because, you know, we don't have truthful conversations, because a truthful conversation would tell us that Albany isn't even close to realizing its potential, because there's no complete vision there for that.
And, you know, vision is a big piece to this podcast, because as I mentioned earlier, you never hear vision coming out of our leaders. You know, you hear them responding and reacting.
It's always respond and react.
Yes, and I feel like we are living in an Albany that if you don't know someone, it's going to be hard for you to get, you know, support for your vision or your ideal or, you know, even your concern. And so we have to create a space where people can feel comfortable opening up, whether it's about positive stuff or negative stuff, because the support and the support is just not there where it needs to be at. And it's like we have to have something negative happen for the love to be shown. It's a lot of love in Albany, and I operate. I'm from the village. I'm a villager. I'll never look at it any way other. I'm just going to be safe as I navigate through.
We talk about that all the time. My dad didn't have an opportunity to come to my basketball games when I played with you at Albany High, but your dad was there for me. That was my dad. He spoke up. for me and on my behalf. We talk about different people. And one of the people that I'll never forget is Charles Obar Robinson. Being at games, Obar speaking up for me to colleges, talking about, you see that kid right there? He's going to be somebody. He's just playing behind a lot of people right now. And that's the kind of, I'm just naming two names, but we're both fortunate in to have the Norm McConneys, the Lloyd Stewarts, all of those people behind us who were pushing us, part of that village. And sometimes I look back and I feel thankful. I'm always thankful for it. But at the same time, I'm sad because there's so many kids that are coming up today that don't have that village, that don't have those people, the Joe Roberts and everybody else that's willing to step in and say, don't do this. You know what I mean? Or, fortunately, I'm in a position now where I've been through so much in life, good and bad, that I can speak to young people about consequences. I can speak to young people about stepping outside of what was set for you and, falling afoul of the law and what that means and how it affects not only you, but other people. But many of us don't have people in our lives anymore who can do that, who are willing to do that. It's almost like we're scared of our children. And when you talk about Albany, one of the things, again, we don't have the vision for ourselves. We always look at it as, we're willing to criticize and make points about what isn't here, but very few people are really willing to roll up their sleeves and put in the effort to make some sort of change to that.
And, I love the word change because as I share with my elected official colleagues, I'm not here to support the institution. I'm here to make changes, the much needed changes to the institution. I'm here for change that hasn't existed. I'm here to make sure the record reflects that the people was not comfortable with this.
Yeah.
A lot of times things are being forced on us. They're leading us in conversation. They're bullying us with the threat of lawsuits. You brought up a name, Obar, and when I look at that seat, I could see him being in that seat, more than once, because some of the things that he's always said he said it to me years ago. We need to sue, and I was like, we don't sue our city, But if you look at how our city is operating right now, it's operating under the fear of lawsuits or the threat of lawsuits. And so we have to, like, what I do is I just watch these other groups that are functioning in our city, and I'm like, just getting points, getting educated of how to bring us together, like the things that we need to do. People think that it's one person. We got a mayor's race coming up in the next 12 months or more, and they think it's one person is going to have the answers to everything. No, it's the one person that we elect, we get behind and support. We get them in through the election, and then we support him or her. Well, support him. We're gonna call a spade a spade. We support him once he gets in there, and then make it his vision possible. Like the work doesn't fall on the hands of one person. We elect a mayor, we elect 15 council people, and they're supposed to work together to make the city better.
How many council people are there of color right now in the city of Albany?
I believe it's 9.
I wanted to put that on the record. I wanted you to say that it is 9.
Yes.
Because we fought for a long time to maintain 3.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're in a position where we got 9.
Yep.
That speaks volumes for progress and the sacrifices that people like Leon Van Dyke and others made throughout, Andy Gill, throughout the generations.
The
brothers to be able to get us to that position. And then I never thought in my lifetime that you'd see 3 black people running for mayor, 2 of them women. You know what I mean? And be legitimate in legitimate contention and consideration, in the city of Albany. That says a lot about what our power base is. And people, we may not recognize it, but people are fearful of what would happen if we come together, because we have a base like that where you could talk about 3 people running for mayor. Now, some things are going to obviously have to happen and ferret out and those kind of things, but it's just amazing. And then what I find, I look at that, and then I look at another situation. I have nothing against Assemblywoman Fahey, nothing at all. But I find it amazing that there's a fight for an assembly seat, but not for the Senate. The Senate was just decided, and that's what it was. But we're going to let there be a cat fight for the lower seat. And I feel like that should have all been open. And that's what we really got to begin to talk about, is how we make Albany politics less preferential and more open. And we have the power base now to be able to do it, because people don't realize that that's how you control what happens in a community, is through those elected officials, and then those block captains and everybody else, that the delegates, everybody makes those decisions, the committee people, in terms of how dollars are spent, how programs are decided, and so forth, so that we can begin to address our own ills, and we're not having to go ask somebody else to do something for us that we're organized and in a position to do for ourselves.
Excellent point. Again, when I first heard about that, I was bothered by that, because, when you hear people say the next mayor from the city of Albany should be a black male, on the state level, what you never seen is any type of minority representation. And if you, like, we had a chance to work with the caucus from the state level, and there, that was a concern of theirs, because some of the issues that they were hearing from us, they never hear on the state level from our representatives. And that's hard to deal with. But if you had any experience of working in the assembly, that's an easy notice. When you walk in there, you see the conversation isn't about the ills that plague Albany. And so, as long as we're not talking about it, it's going to be hard to get funding for it. It's going to be hard to address it. So I was bothered by how that all worked out. Like, you got an endorsement without even a conversation, and I went on record to say I didn't like the way the black male has been treated in this election process. Whether it be the discussion surrounding Jasper Mills, who's running for family court, whether it be it was another the issues involving the DA. Like, when you get deep in that conversation, these are practices that other DAs are doing that have a different skin color, that aren't being harped on. And it was a few things in there that made me uncomfortable about the timing of this conversation, and so, like, I just, when I think of SOARS, I just think of this. None of the other DAs that were head of that office, monies never came to our community for support. And
they've never had and I think that I've run afoul of the DA, and he and
Yes.
I would never be considered best friends.
Yes.
But there's no argument that there hasn't been a DA as involved in the community as this DA. And I honestly believe that while I have differences with him over bail reform and some of the other stances that he's taken, I think he's been a good DA. And I'm saying that as someone who, he went after very hard, and I felt like I did an exorbitant amount of time. But I think he's a good DA whose heart is in the right place and who wants to see kids come up in safe communities. But I feel like you're exactly right. Like, we never went after we never asked Greenberg a single question. When he was DA, it was just like he was the man, he was law. And because, again, I believe because of skin color and politics, he was allowed to run roughshod over whatever he wanted to do. What the police were like back then. You know what I mean? It was just like, stop, beat up, ask questions later. You know what I mean? And that's something that's not discussed, but it's no secret in Albany. You look at going back to when we were kids, Lemuel Smith and other cases like that of blatant police brutality. You know what I mean? And then you had, very small numbers of police. Everybody knew Nelson, John the cop. I don't even know John's last name.
John Frank Jones.
Yeah, referred to as John the cop. Everybody knew him because that's who you went to if you had a problem.
Yeah.
But we've had a long history, and it's time that we start stepping out of that history and into a future that our children can be proud of, that they can look at and say, my mom and dad made this possible for me.
So I just want to make sure to I want to suggest that you like, subscribe, and follow. This is new to us. And, we're here really to, talk about the issues and get the information out. But we also have to learn how to respect the platform and make it productive in all angles. So, once again, this was just really a dry run. It's something that is needed because we are having these conversations in barbershops. We're having these conversations, when we just get together and we fix a lot of things, but sometimes we don't act off of it. And so, as an elected official, I don't have many community meetings, but I hold, hundreds of
Formal community meetings.
individual,
Yeah,
one-on-one,
yeah.
and I'm always pulling and getting educated. Sometimes I'm doing the educating, and sometimes I'm getting educated. But the information is going both ways, and so I love the social media platform because we get to have a conversation, and it gets to get replayed over and over and over, and it gives people a chance to catch on to the many teachable moments that they're going to come about when you sit next to an Aaron Dare, when you put Derek Johnson in a space that he can be comfortable and just start to speak his mind and open up so people can understand because it's more to me than just saying what needs to be said. I've had an opportunity to live in Richmond, Virginia, to be exposed to a state senator, to Douglas Wilder, who was the first black governor, to watch these guys operate in the north side of Virginia to make sure that the north side got what it's supposed to get. Dan McCoy, it can't be said that Corey Ellis and Derek Johnson didn't go to Dan McCoy and offer him the opportunity for us to operate and work along the lines that Jennings, Van Arenberg, and Mike Connors did, because they were all three white guys from North Albany that always made sure North Albany was straight. And, being that I'm from the South End, Corey's from the South End, and Dan is from downtown, the South End, via Second Ave, I think that it's an opportunity for us to make sure that the South End doesn't continue to get overlooked. So, the goal of this podcast, once again, is to bring knowledge to the community, to make sure that people understand there's people out there that think like them, that's willing to go on the record and provide true leadership to the people and direction. So I hope that people enjoyed this conversation and found something that was beneficial for them, and give us some feedback onto how we can make it better and make it more interesting. And people who would like to join us, it's going to be a space for that as well. And just wanted to give Aaron a opportunity to
I think you said it very well. The only thing I would add to it is there's a sense of urgency that we need to be feeling in our communities, a real pinch that's occurring right now. We're losing our children at a younger and younger age. And so something has to be done. There needs to be a stopgap method put in place quickly, because we're losing our kids and we're losing them to incarceration. And that becomes a repetitive pattern. The fear of jail is gone. And so they come in, they get indoctrinated, they're no longer scared of it. They go back and they're with the homies and, everything else that becomes a part of that process. Secondly, we're watching our communities become gentrified. Everybody's scared to use that word, but that's exactly what's happening. And it's happening when you look at North Albany. When you start coming in along Broadway and you start looking at the number of high rent apartments that are coming in and the number of people that we're losing as a result that can't afford those rent. Anytime you got a city of 100,000 people and you lose an apartment complex like Bleecker, for a period of time where they were talking about having to shut down and redo, and you're losing 330 apartments, and it creates a housing crisis, that tells you there's a severe problem. We're having a problem with employment in terms of finding skilled labor to work in the construction and trades and other industries. And people can't afford college anymore. If you look at college presidents, they'll tell you now the FAFSA forms are becoming a problem. So we've got some real issues that we had made headway on that generations gave up their lives for to be able to make sure future generations would be of our people would be taken care of. We're losing a lot of that now, and there's a sense of urgency that should be developing in our communities around all of this. We have some opportunity to begin to correct it with different things that are happening. Community Development Block Grant is not what it was, but there are other resources that we can begin to tap into that we really need to, because we are under attack.
So once again, thank you. Please remember to like, subscribe, and follow. And until the next time, stay up.